Hi everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Burnette. I've been with ENFOS about 5 years, and for the last year and a half, I've been involved with our rollout of business intelligence module. So this first breakout session that we're going to do is going to take a dive into the backend structure that we're using for our BI reports and dashboards. So we'll start off with just taking a look at the overall data structure. So on the far left, you can see the ENFOS logo. That is the ENFOS software as it currently stands. So ENFOS uses a series of highly normalized data sets. That's where all of your information is stored on our servers. And what we've done is we've taken a third-party software called TIBCO Jaspersoft. They also have a standalone product called Spotfire, and we've embedded that into our existing ENFOS reporting module. And what we do is every night at about midnight PST, we take all of the normalized data sets that you're using every day in ENFOS, and we denormalize that data. That denormalized data process takes between 6 and 8 hours, and it's usually ready by about 7 a.m. Pacific time. So for all of the business intelligence ad hoc reporting, all of the dashboards, they all use yesterday's data in ENFOS. And as we continue to improve the implementation of this software, we hope to shrink that time down even more. So within the denormalized data, you have your own customer domain. So each one of our clients will have their own domain within the reporting denormalized data sets. And that domain is going to be made up of all of your data sets. So these data sets are going to be very similar to the existing 100 ENFOS standard reports. So you're going to see data sets for your site information, for your AOC information, for your invoices, plans, and POs, as well as things like compliance, permitting, and contacts. Once you have those data sets, you actually get into the ad hoc report creation. So that's taking one or more of the data sets and pulling out the fields and measures that you want to use for your report creation. And each one of those ad hoc views can then be published as a report on its own, or be included in a dashboard with multiple other dashlets, ad hoc charts, crosstabs, pivot tables, standard tables, and so on. So for this session, we're going to focus primarily on the first 4 blobs. So we're going to look at our denormalization process, the domain, and data sets. So the module is actually called Data Insights. So that is our business intelligence module, and it's broken up into 4 sub-modules. Those 4 pieces are a home module, which is going to be your final report and dashboard viewer, an editor module, which would be the designer for existing reports and dashboards. You can go in there, change things, duplicate them, export them, and so on. And then you have a new ad hoc creation and new dashboard creation. New dashboard, you can actually create new ad hocs in too. But if you're just looking at, or you're just playing around, the new ad hoc is the place to start. And that's actually where we'll be looking at our next breakout session in half an hour. So for the permissions, each user account has hundreds of permissions already, but there's 2 new ones for Data Insights. And there are these 2 rows that have the checkboxes. We have a BI admin, which is primarily for the customer administrators. I believe all of the administrators that are in this room should already have that permission. The second one is Data Insights. Data Insights is for your everyday users. Each of these permissions has 4 steps or 4 levels of permission. So you've got reporting, viewing, modifying, add, delete. Reporting is going to be just exporting. Viewing is going to have access to the reports. If you have access to view in both BI admin and the document or the Data Insights, then you can view your own reports and reports that have been published by your administrator. So a big difference between these 2 permissions is the BI admin can publish reports and dashboards for your entire user base, where if you only have the data insights permission, you're restricted to your personal folder. And then of course, add delete, pretty self-explanatory. The admins will always have full add delete permissions, still be able to go in, build things from scratch for any user, save it either as a public report or dashboard, or the administrator could even save a specific report or dashboard to a specific user's repository.
George?
Yeah.
If a user has the data insight authority, but not the BI admin authority, what they can delete is only their personal reports?
Correct.
Not the, okay.
Yep. So for most of your regular users, they'll be restricted to the data insights permission. Something to keep in mind with these permissions is since we denormalize the data sets every 24 hours, when you first enable these permissions for users, it takes 24 hours or at least overnight for them to take effect. So if you want your users to start using it on Monday, make sure you enable it on Friday. So looking at that actual denormalization process, which is much simpler than it sounds. We've got two examples here of how the same data can look. On the right, we have normalized data, and on the left is the denormalized data, or left. So the normalized data is how ENFOS stores your data when you're using the software. So we've got an invoice ID, an invoice value, and then you see a subtable that's actually the breakout details of that invoice. When you denormalize that data, you create redundancies. So now each row of that denormalized data has the invoice ID and the invoice value. So something to be aware of when you're building out ad hoc reports and dashboards is that if you reorder your fields and measures inappropriately, you can cause redundancy errors. So it's just part of the learning curve of moving to a new reporting module. So earlier we talked about the domain. This is the actual domain page. So when you click that submodule for a new ad hoc report, this is the first thing you see. I'm in an ENFOS test system, the same test system that we'll be using tomorrow at the end of the conference for the hour-long user training, start to finish ad hoc creation through a dashboard. But we're all going to be using just a domain called ENFOS, which has quite a bit of dummy data that we've built out in a couple of years. So that domain is made up of all of the data sets. So each one of these, this is a little tough to read, but at the top here we've got activity planner, AOC information, which there are 3 of, which I'll explain why in a minute, contacts, invoice summary, invoice with WBS, laboratory data, user log information, as well as things like notes, plan balance by WBS, and you can see we've got the scroll bar on the side, so there's another dozen or so that we can't see. As we continue to roll out the business intelligence submodule, we'll be adding more data sets, so you'll be able to have things like your additional information fields. And then going back to the additional information, there's 3 of them because we take these data sets and we join them together. And some of the data sets don't have a primary key that we can use as a unique identifier to join them. So for some of our more simplified data sets, like the AOC information, we've duplicated them so that we can join them to different financial data sets appropriately. Taking a look at just a single data set, I've got one open here for the invoice summary. So we've got all of these fields and measures within the invoice summary data set. So this is everything that you're going to see in an invoice in the base currency, the local currency, and if you're using third currency, you'll see transaction currency fields too. Something to keep in mind is if you are using alternate terminology than the ENFOS defaults, you're currently going to see the defaults. So that's a project that we're working on to get all of those values updated. So if you're using work order instead of purchase order, you'll see the terminology that you're familiar with. That's an ongoing project that we're rolling out. But you can see here we've only got about 12.5 fields displayed. but I've got a really little scroll bar here. So there's actually about 90 fields in this invoice summary data set that I can choose from.
Is one of them the project coordinator?
There is a contact, so you can filter out by contact. But what we do have is another data set that student will be able to join with the invoice summary specific for contact. So if you're looking for a specific contact name, a specific role, we'll be able to join those together. You'll be able to filter it out that way. So, great question. We're actually looking at joins here. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we have two data sets, proposal with WBS and PO summary. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see some of them are grayed out, some of them are still black. So the ones that are grayed out do not have an active join with the data sets I've selected. So that just means that we have not yet identified the primary key that links the two data sets together. So as you start to use the ENFOS Business Intelligence module, if you find things that you're saying, oh, I want to be able to do this, but there's no join available yet, let us know. Because we have an ongoing list of things that we are actively joining. So looking at those same data sets with the joins that are expanded, on the right-hand side of my page, we got the proposal with WBS and the PO summary. The nice thing about the data sets is that you don't have to pull all 90 fields from them. If I only want the proposal approved time and materials amount and the proposal approved unit amount with 2 levels of WBS detail and the AOC or project name and the base PO approved amount from the PO summary data set, I only need to pull those 6 fields. There's no need for me to pull 180 fields and search through them. And you can always go back in and find those data sets again and pull additional fields or add additional joins to the current ad hoc view you're working on. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe you're getting later, but can you only use your joins with this, or can I also do like a left join?
Oh, the what join?
A left join?
Scott, I'm going to default that one to you.
I don't know if we have that level of functionality exposed out, like to the admin users of the tool, but it exists within the tool. So it's something that we could look at providing for sure. Okay.
Yeah, so if that's something that you would require to use BI, then we should talk about that more.
I don't have a specific example for you.
Something that Sandeep is going to be talking about tomorrow is the ability for us to use OData to make our data sets available to you externally if you're using Power BI as an organization or another BI reporting software. So we'll be able to expose the ENFOS denormalized data sets to your existing BI reporting engine. And then in the next session, which is going to get into basic ad hoc reporting, we're going to be focusing on this page. So this is the actual editor designer page. Just a little preview for what's coming up next. We're going to be taking a look at each one of these sections in depth. So we'll open it up to QA. Yeah,
So if you cut it down to those like 6 fields, that helps speed up your computation time to run the reports and filter them out. Because I notice when I play in there, it takes a long time to churn through the data, it feels like.
Yeah, it does help a little bit. What I found is that if you know what you're already going to be filtering on, to create your filters before you start pulling the fields, and that will narrow down the data that you're pulling from right from the beginning.
Okay.
So if you know you're looking at just Kate's invoices, then if you filter it by Kate first, your reports are going to create faster.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. The next session coming up in about 10 minutes, I guess, is on that basic ad hoc creation. So we'll look at that last screen that we looked at in there.
Can additional information be added at the void field?
Yes. Yeah, so we're currently rolling out the additional information data sets. Since each one of our clients has different additional information fields, we just made a list and we're plugging through them.
George, as you, like, because we're looking to add some additional information fields.
Yeah.
So are you going to be able to keep kind of growing as we add things?
Yes, so there's a process in place to capture those new fields as you create them. And Scott, I believe that's already been implemented.
Yeah, I'm not sure what release it's in yet, but it may be in the one that's upcoming here.
It might be in the test system right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be rolled out to production when you get your additional information data sets too.
And so what would the time frame be? Say everything's going live 6 months from now, all those additional field features are available. If we were to add some additional, what would be the time frame that it would then populate into the report in the future or as a source data?
It should be, if our process works as we expect it to, it should be 24 hours
So
later.
it would be that next data population. Okay.
Yeah,
Is this functionality already available in your?
yeah, so it's in production now. The permissions are enabled for all of the admins and you can enable it for your users at any point.
So anybody that's on E3 can go in and find it, and start looking at it?
Yeah, we've actually released 5 dashboards, just to try to pique everyone's curiosity. So for the people already on ENFOS 3, you'll have 5 dashboards with, I think it's between 15 and 20 individual charts and graphs that are already there for you to play around with, change as needed.
Are you all working on a way to speed up the refresh rate?
Yes, yeah. So first thing is we want to get all of the data sets available, and then once we've got everything working smoothly, then it'll be optimizing the processes and runtimes.
So this is basically creating your own custom report, right?
Yeah, and it's really drag and drop. So you won't have to go to your report creation team to create a dashboard if you want to. The idea is that our business intelligence rollout is end user friendly. So if you can run an existing ENFOS report, we want you to be able to create a custom report in BI through it.
You know how in some of your canned reports, it doesn't have all the data that you, like let's say the PO report doesn't have, some of the data that you want. So pretty much you can bring all that data into one report is what you're saying, right? If I wanted more information in my PO report, that's a
Yeah.
canned report, you can start adding multiple.
So the existing BI data sets actually have more fields than the canned reports do right now. So if you want to pull in your PO data and your proposal with WBS data and the invoicing data, you can just throw it all into one big BI report.
Yeah, that's nice.
So you can start to eliminate macros in Excel or pivot tables, because it's as simple as dragging 2 fields, you've got a pivot table.
What about, there's no existing report that I see that pulls certain information about it, right?
What's that?
Like, there's no report that I can see that I can find that pulls the information of the committed amount and the actual PO amount.
Yeah, so you can do that in about 4 minutes. Yeah.